The introduction of Buddhism in Japan can be seen as a major changing point in Japan's history. It brought with it a political structure, advanced technologies, and important cultural practices like new writing system, and above all, elaborate Buddhist art. This all started at the place of worship for Buddhism, the temple. So why don't we take a closer look at Japanese Buddhist temples? Which buildings can be found at the Buddhist compound, and what are their architectural features? This video will take a closer look at the aspects of Japanese Buddhist architecture with one of the oldest temples in Japan, Shinten-oji, as an example. Buddhism and Buddhist architecture were imported from China via Korea in the 6th century. This period was called the Asuka period. Buddhism took ground in Japan when it got support from Prince Shotoku. He ordered the construction of a Buddhist temple, Shinten-oji in Osaka. It was built in 593. Shinten-oji was one of the most important temple complexes of the time. But tormented by fires, wars, typhoons, Shinten-oji was finally fully rebuilt in 1963. It's a faithful reproduction of the style of the Asuka period, and this makes it a great example for Buddhist architecture. Let's take a look at Shinten-oji and see what buildings can commonly be found at a Buddhist complex. It is best to start at the layout or Shishido-garan, the Japanese word for temple buildings. The Shishido-garan is an ideal set of buildings for a Buddhist temple complex. In the Asuka period, this temple layout was strictly prescribed and followed. A rectangular compound bordered by a continuous roofed corridor. This was entered through a central gate on its south side and contained a variety of internal structures, such as a pagoda and a main hall, kondo, both used for worship. Gates are very important at a Buddhist complex. Called sanmon in Japanese, they are the boundary between the worldly and the Buddhist domain. To pass through the gates means to be cleansed from impurities and worldly passions. The most sacred gate faces south. Through the gates, the central area is accessed. This is where the main hall can be found. The main hall or kondo is the heart of the precinct. This is where the main image, the center of the faith, is housed, the Buddha. The pagoda is also in the central area. The structure is derived from the stupa, a domed monument first constructed in ancient Indian Buddhism. To this day, they are used for housing sacred objects and worship. The lecture hall or kodo in Japanese is one of the main structures on a Buddhist compound. They are for reading the sutras, where Buddhist doctrines are taught and rituals performed. This is all enclosed by a roofed corridor with lanterns, called Doro Suridoro. They are regarded as an offering to Buddha. Outside the enclosed sacred area, a bell tower can often be found. At Shinten-oji, the bell tower is called Kannetsukido. It is said that the sound of the bell of this temple resonates all the way to paradise. With time, these architectural styles that came from China were localized in order to suit the Japanese taste, local resources, and weather. Local materials, mainly wood, were used. Only with great traditional carpentry skills passed on through generations, the complex structures of Buddhist temples could be made. This technique is called tsugite, that translates to joinery. Almost all Buddhist temples in Japan share a common general structure: columns and lintels to support a large and gently curved roof. It is said that the gable and eave curves are more gentle than in China. The most impressive component of Japanese Buddhist architecture is the roof. The roof has slightly curved eaves that extend far beyond the walls, covering verandas. These oversized eaves give the interior a characteristic dimness, which contributes to the temple's atmosphere. Considering Shinten-oji is one of the first Buddhist temples in Japan, and started by Prince Shotoku, who is seen as an important part of Japan's origin story, the Nihon Shoki, we can say that Shinten-oji has played an important role in Japan's history. It's an example of Buddhist architecture that still to this day many people visit to bring offers or perform Buddhist rituals. Shinten-oji is a beautiful Buddhist temple complex and a great example of Buddhist architecture that will stand for a long time to come.